Hallo og velkommen. Welcome to this second episode of Nordic Taste Buds. I am Jane and I'm standing here in my kitchen in Oslo, Norway. And here on my side is Sunny, my good friend, and she's standing in New York. So we're literally cooking across the ocean. And today we are gonna cook something called Lapskaus. And I don't know how you say that in English.
Interestingly enough, the word, and I'll get into the history more after we finish cooking and put it in the pot, but I saw that it's actually an English word, Lapskaus, scouse, which is from Liverpool. And that's actually now a name of Liverpudlians, is like scouse. So I thought it's so funny, but they pronounce it, I mean, they spell it differently, Lobscouse. So it's not as Norwegian as we think it is, because there are versions in Denmark, Sweden, Germany. Also, I shouldn't, and that's actually very similar, Lapskaus, because, you know, of course we have a Germanic language, but yeah, I think everybody, a lot of the Norwegian and American communities know Lapskaus because it is such a traditional, simple stew, perfect for this time of year. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we are gonna cook actually two versions of this today, because I'm gonna cook the very classic lapskaus, and you, Sammy, you're gonna cook a more modern lapskaus, a little more posh, maybe.
So posh. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, but we have the basic things are common in our recipe, right? Our ingredients, like potatoes and carrots and a leek, many other things that we're going to tell you very soon. But first, we're just gonna get the things in the casserole and make it put it on the cooking, and then we're gonna tell you all about what lapskaus is and how we Norwegian typically eat lapskaus.
Yes, very excited for this. So what we're going to start with is we have a large pot, as we both have.
Yeah.
We're going to put it on sort of medium, not high heat, but add a little olive oil, or you can use butter. And heats up really fast because I have this different kind of like a dunsk oven. I'm trying to stay with a Norwegian theme. So first you want to add your aromatics, right? So we have, I have onions, and I also have some leeks. What about you, Jana? What are you starting off with?
Yeah, my traditional lapskaus recipe is not including onions actually. But I have a whole leek, so a lot of leek. That's very important.
That's very Norwegian. And if you don't know what a leek is, I have it right here. So you see it. It's very common in Norwegian food. It's very, very flavorful. So you see these outer leaves. You probably want to take off the first one because it's really tough and maybe have been sort of, you know, maybe it's a little dirty. They are very dirty, by the way. So what I do is I usually will just cut off the, you know, sort of 2/3 of these green ones. I want to keep some greens, but then what I do is I cut it. I keep the root. There's a stem here. I keep that intact, and then I just divide it in half, cut it, cutting board, and then be sure to wash all the layers, because this is very gross in the ground, so you have a lot of dirt. So you don't want to eat dirt. So make sure that you actually add, rinse the leek, okay? And then you cut it into half moons, and you can use leeks in so many different stews. You can use it in tofu scrambles. You can use it in so many ways. But I think it adds a little specific Norwegian flavor, don't you think?
Yeah. What I love about leek is I love onions too, but leek is more it's softer, it's milder in the taste. Yes. But it's very, very flavorful. It's gonna create a beautiful full taste, but not so strong as onions.
And I do have a comment on that, because typically regular onions, and usually the onions I find in Norway, are what we call yellow onions here. But there's a type of onion that I typically like to cook with, which are called Vidalia onions, and they're sweet onions. And they are actually sweet and very mild. So I tend to go for those. They're more oval. They're not like round and yellow. They're more not white, but they're between yellow and white, and they're oval. And they're either go by sweet onion or Vidalia. So check out that. I always use that in my cooking. Very rarely do I use the yellow onions because they do have, like you say, strong smell.
That's very interesting. I think I've never tasted that kind of onion.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen it in Norway, but you know, I'm sure the chefs will know that cook.
Yeah.
The inspiration for me cooking with a little bit different is, of course, my chef background. So I always tend to add in a few things because it really irritated me that many people say, oh, Norwegian food is so bland and so boring, but it isn't. It just is a matter of like how you flavor things. You can add a couple of different things here and there. The basics, though, is delicious, and this soup is fantastic, or this stew, I should say. It's not a soup, it's a stew.
Yeah. Mm.
It's just really perfect for this time of year, right? With all the root vegetables. This is all available in Norway right now. And by the way, in northeastern US where I live, because there's not much growing in this summer, I mean in the cold weather right now. So
yeah,
we want to kind of cook this. I tend to sort of stir it a lot because I have a thinner pot, but try to get a heavy bottom pot like Jana has. I do have a Le Creuset, but they're all occupied with other dishes right now.
yeah.
I added a little bit of kosher salt, which helps, you know, bring out the flavor of the onions, bring out the sweetness, a little bit of the moisture. And then until, you know, you'll cook those until they're about translucent, would you say? I have a second step that you don't have, so I'll let you finish cooking just, and you can take over. You want to cook the leeks for about 3 to 4 minutes or so, depending on your pot. Every stove is different, of course, but when you see the onions and the leeks sort of get soft and translucent, that's when you want to start with my recipe, and you get both recipes, by the way. Is I have some mushrooms, which I tend to use instead because the traditional Lapskaus has beef or pork, depending on which kind, and we'll talk about the different types of Lapskaus that you'll find in Norway. So I have these beautiful shiitake mushrooms. My recipe says wild mushrooms. You don't have to use wild mushrooms. You can use button mushrooms, you know, creminis or portobello. You don't have to go fancy on it. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. So if you see, this is, I have a huge, these are huge actually. They're usually not this big. But I'll take off the stem. I don't throw out the stem. I actually make a stock out of it. So I'm just going to keep that here, and then I'll throw it in either my stock or my dog stock, because I do like to give my dogs eat mushrooms. It's really healthy. And then I just slice it, you know, just really thinly and sort of thin slices like this. It's very buttery and so, and it looks like a lot of mushrooms, but remember, mushrooms is like 90% water. So they're going to shrink down a lot in the pot. So you can see it looks like a lot, but it'll like probably go down by 2/3. I'm going to turn on my water for my stock. But so this is going to go for, I put a couple of cracks of black pepper. I don't salt the mushrooms right away. I want them to draw out their own liquid. If you salt them too soon, it's going to just not have your two things. You're not going to get the nutrition from them because they do need to just kind of draw out their own liquid. And also there'll be a different texture. That's why so many people don't like mushrooms, because they don't know how to cook them. So this is going to go, and I'll turn on my broth. And what are you doing, Jana?
Well, I'm doing the straight in the pot or straight in the casserole and cook it. I'm not frying anything like you are doing.
Oh, okay.
So I have just water, and it's very important not to use too much water, just so it almost covers the vegetables. So now it's cooking already, and
so the water is boiling before you add the vegetables?
What?
So the water is boiling before you add the vegetables?
No, I just I just put all the vegetables in, and then I added water, and I put the stove on and cook.
Oh, wow.
And in here I have potatoes with the peel on. Do you have the peel on the potatoes?
I do not have the potato peel on.
Or skin. I think it's called skin. Potato
Yeah,
skin.
skin or the
Yeah.
peel, either or.
Yeah.
I would say that, you know, if you use the skin, make sure it's either organic or you wash it, you know,
Yeah.
a nice, maybe
Of
in a
course.
vinegar solution or something, because potatoes is one of the most sprayed, at least here in the US. I don't know how it is in Norway, but potatoes is, of course, the lifeline of Norwegian food. I mean, it's hard to find a meal without it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think they're better quality over there. But here I'm skeptical, even to the organic, because our soil is so depleted too and polluted. So I tend to peel them unless I bake them, and then I just don't eat the peel. But then, of course, that kind of protects the moisture of the potato, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's different here in Norway.
Yeah.
Anyway, I use organic potatoes with the peel on because I like that very much. And I have a bunch of carrots and the leek, of course, and kohlrabi and the parsley root and the celery root.
Yeah, parsnip.
Parsnip?
Parsnip.
No,
So
that's
this
not
guy,
that.
it looks like a potato, but it's white. It's called
Yeah, but
no,
it's not the
no.
same thing. It's I'm talking about the persillerot.
Oh, you are thinking about the, is it this the celeriac? No.
No, not celery root. It's something called persillerot, parsley root, and it's much sweeter.
Okay.
And a little more peppery than parsnip.
Ah, Hashimoto.
Yeah.
I'm sure I know it. This is what happens when you live in the US for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that's what it is. But
Yeah.
we can add so many different types of root vegetables. You know, it's not just sweet potato and potato, right? There's so many different ones. So I was showing the celeriac or celery root, and it's a really ugly vegetable, and it has
Yeah.
thick skin and the root, and you're like, what? And most people
Mm.
actually will like go past it in the store
Yeah.
because they don't know what to do with it, but it's the most flavorful ever. And I've cut it up into cubes. So both Jan and I are putting that in our stew. What another thing I love to make with celery root is a creamy celery root soup. You don't need any dairy. You can puree it. You can make it puree instead of mashed potatoes. Have a celery root puree. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's a queen of vegetables, the celery.
Yeah, I'm actually adding some herbs. Are you using any herbs at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna add some thymian, some thyme.
Some thyme. Okay, so you have dry thyme.
Yeah.
I have fresh thyme, and what you'll do is if you have these like stalks, you just like kind of take it off the stem. You don't have to chop it really. And I also have some chopped fresh rosemary and some sage. I love those flavors because they're kind of, to me, synonymous with winter. So I'm just going to toss that in with the mushrooms because I think they go so well together. Those earthy flavors go with the earthy flavor of the mushroom. And then just saute that for just a tiny bit. And now I'm starting to see my mushrooms soften a little bit, which is nice. Once they've started to sort of extract all their own juices, then I add a little bit of salt. So technically, I would probably go a little bit longer here, but since we're filming.
Yeah.
All right.
And also I'm adding a little of rosemary and some fresh persilla. It's parsley.
Yeah, curled parsley. Yeah, curled parsley. Yeah.
Curled parsley. Yeah.
I will add that to the end. I just finish it off when I serve it. So I just cut it up and I just put it on top. So the difference between Jan's recipe and mine is a little bit more, like I said, it's a little, maybe a bit more involved, if you will. But now I'm actually going to turn it up slightly more as my vegetables have cooked. I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of vegan butter. You know, nothing is better than butter, as we say. I'm just gonna melt that really quick. And Yona, maybe you want to talk about the differences between the brown and white Lapskaus, because there's two different versions, and everybody says that this is right or no, that's not Lapskaus, but both are correct.
Yeah. Well, I asked my mom about brown or light lobscouse, and she said, well, both are delicious and taste very, very good. But maybe the brown one was a little more exclusive because you needed some meat that was more expensive. You used meat from a cow, or what is it called? Oxe, a male cow.
Yeah, ox.
Yeah, and that was more expensive. So then you were like you are doing now. You fried it a long time, so it would be a brown base, and then the lobscouse would turn brown.
Right.
But it's not like brown is more worth or better.
Yeah, it's just a tradition, right? Just keep that thought. I'm just going to tell them what I do next. So you might have saw me after the butter's melted. I put in about 2 or 3 tablespoons of flour. I have some wine too because I was in the wine industry for a long time, so I have to have wine and everything. No, I'm just kidding. Of
Yeah.
course, vegan wine. I'm adding in a half a cup, and then I'm going to just turn that up so that that actually gets all reduced and soaked in. You don't want any remaining leftover wine flavor. If you don't drink wine, if you don't want to use wine, you can use red wine vinegar, about a quarter cup. But I think that that adds just a nice depth and a little like nice acid. And think about it when you're cooking. Sugar, salt, and vinegar, they're not really necessarily like spices or flavors, but they bring out the other flavors of what's in the dish. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing right here. So now I have like a nice, it's colored it a little bit, but that helps because I want it to be brown, as you see, right? So I don't have meat in the brown lobscouse, as Jonna said, you're browning the meat first, and that's when we call it the brown lobster. Since we don't have the meat, I'm doing this trick with the flour that also obviously will thicken it, so it's a stew rather than a soup. So anyway, continue, and I'm gonna, after this, I'm just going to add in the vegetable broth and then all my vegetables as well.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm gonna take a little picture because this looks really nice here right now. All the colors of those beautiful vegetables.
Yes, we have to document because we are a two-woman show, so we have to do it all ourselves. But I do prefer the mushroom because that adds that nice earthy umami flavor that kind of substitutes for the meat flavor, right?
Yeah, yeah. Mushrooms, they are so powerful in their taste. So
Very much.
you gotta be careful not to add too much because they are really so flavorful.
Yes.
I've never tasted lapskaus with mushrooms before.
Oh yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna try to cook your version.
I'm adding in about 4 some medium potatoes. Adding in some 2 carrots. I have my celeriac root, a small one, smaller than this. And my parsnip, this guy that looks like a white carrot. And then I want some kohlrabi as well. So this might need a little bit more liquid because I always cook for the 10 of us. My husband says, I always say that, not the 2 of us.
Yeah. But the good thing about lapskaus, it tastes even better the next day. So the leftovers are just perfect. Tastes so good.
Another tip, if you need to add more liquid to a boiling soup, or if you're cooking beans from scratch, never put cold water in the hot pot because then you're just reducing the temperature. So I always have my little teapot with hot water.
Yeah.
Add in as you need it. And then I'm just going to bring that to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, then I'm going to reduce it and let it cook until the vegetables are done. And that brings me to your fantastic story about your mom. And when you asked her, how do you make lapskaus? So this made me laugh.
when I started to cook for myself when I moved away from home, I wanted to cook lapskaus, and I asked her, "Can you give me the recipe for your lapskaus?" And she said, "Well, you start with the potatoes." And I asked, "Well, how many potatoes?" "Well, just a few." It depends on how big your casserole is. Yeah, and then you go on and add some carrots. Well, how many carrots? Well, just about the perfect amount. And then I asked, "Well, how long is this? How long does it need to cook?" Uh, and she said, "Well, about the time it takes your father to wash the car." And that's very beautiful, and it's about experience and taste, and that's what I think is fun about creating food too. You taste and you feel, and it
True.
doesn't have to be mathematic, you
It's
know.
such a beautiful reminder because as I'm, we both are developing recipes and people get so like, oh my God, I forgot I did half a teaspoon instead of 3/4 teaspoon.
Yeah.
How is my, and this is a reminder to not slavishly be attached to a recipe, but maybe start to think of a recipe as inspiration. And then maybe like, we added maybe a vegetable that you don't like, don't add it. Maybe add what you have left. And this is actually a recipe that makes use of leftover foods, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, yes, there are root vegetables because that's mainly what's readily available in Norway. But if you wanted to add some broccoli or this and that, I'm not going to kill you. But this is just the typical thing. And speaking of, I want to do that before I forget. So the special thing about my mom's recipe, and I never even thought of it when I grew up, I just really loved it. Speaking of leftover foods, so sometimes my mom would make sauerkraut in a different dish. And then she had some leftover sauerkraut and she would add that into the lapskaus. And I'm telling you, oh my goodness, it is so delicious. Those are the recipes we can find in our grandparents, sort of stock, if you will, if, their cookbooks have, oh yeah, just a pinch of this and a thing of that. And then you're like, what? And
Yeah.
when you said your mom said like, oh, when is it done? And when I was in culinary school, the chefs were very sort of cheeky with me as I asked, like, well, how long does it cook for? And they always said until it's done. So to your point, you just have to like experience is
Yeah.
the best way to become a good cook because you know exactly how your bread dough is supposed to look like and feel, right? How's your vegetables like? They probably are done in 20 minutes, but you have to still poke them and try and make sure that
Yeah.
you don't just follow a manual. So that's what our grandparents and our moms did, right?
Yeah. And that's the beauty of cooking. It's kind of it's art. Maybe it turns out different every time, but
Yeah,
that's the fun of it.
yeah, absolutely. And
Mm.
so while we're waiting, also what I'm adding at the end, and I don't often use vegan meats or this and that, but I happen to have a husband who's not vegan. He's a big meat lover, and he really appreciates if I add a little bit of meat, vegan meat here and there. So I have the Beyond Meat sausage links. I use the mild Italian style for this one. You could use hot or regular bratwurst, if you will. They come frozen. So what I do is I just heat up a pan, put a little bit of olive oil, and I take them straight from the freezer onto the pan. And then you just saute them until they're done. And then I slice them up into two sort of links, right? Or each link into pieces. And this is what I'm going to add this in to my stew at the very end. So that's going to be a little added meat, but you don't have to. You can do like Joanna. They taste just as delicious without this in it. I'm just doing this to please my husband.
Yeah.
So we talked about it a little bit in the beginning, and Lapskaus, there's different versions of it, but it does seem to come back to the English word Lapskaus, Lobscouse. As I mentioned, scouse now is a word for the Liverpudlians themselves. But what I thought was so cool when I looked it up, it was like it's also called skipskost in Norwegian. Did you know that? So ships cost it ship meal because it was really something that was created out of necessity by the seamen, some fishermen
Yeah.
in Norway. So what they had available on the ships were dried beef, and they would have like biscuits that they would sort of soak in liquid, and then they would have onions, and that was the traditional lapskaus. So those three ingredients, and then of course, as that moved inland and got more sophisticated, that's when we started adding fresh beef and root vegetables and so on, right? So, but it's really interesting because it was called like the meal that transcends two oceans. And I just thought of us, how appropriate, because here you are on one side of the Atlantic, I'm on the other, we're both cooking lapskaus. And I
Yeah.
really, really fun. So, of course, there were a lot of immigrants in the US. And when I first arrived in 1995, I'll date myself now, uh, there was actually still some life to this area in Brooklyn. It's an area between Sunset Park and Bay Ridge. And there actually happened to have at one point 55,000 Norwegians there. It was called Little Norway. And
Wow.
they even bragged that they were the fourth largest Norwegian city in the world. Back in, this was in 1970. So, of course, there's a lot more people on this earth now. But I remember on 8th Avenue, they used to think of 8th Avenue as Karl Johan, the main street in Oslo,
Mhm.
because there was lots of restaurants that served lefse and lutefisk and lapskaus and all these different Norwegian dishes. And I happen to remember when there was a 17th of May parade, there was still a restaurant back then. There was a boulevard called Lapskaus Boulevard in Brooklyn, which was named after this dish. So it is so
Wow.
interesting, and in a way, it's sad. Of course, now a lot of the Norwegians are in the Midwest. They're in Wisconsin, they're in Minnesota. Some happen to be in Washington, North Dakota, South Dakota, but sort of more in the middle. But you see, they sought out that same climate, right, that we have back home. I just always like to talk about the history of a dish versus just how to make it because it just connects you a little bit closer to your heritage.
Yeah. And also, we use the word lapskaus as a more how can I say this in English? Overført betydning. You can say it means a little bit of that and a little bit of that. You just take a little bit of that and that and that, and that's a big lapskaus of meanings, for example, or a big lapskaus of people, big lapskaus of colors.
Yes, that is a very good point. And of course, now I'm struggling to find the word for it, but it does have, it's like a synonym for, like you said, just throw in a little bit of this and a little bit of that, almost like the other version, which we maybe should cook sometime, pyttipanne, you know,
Yeah,
whatever you have, you just throw in, and it's the most
yeah.
delicious dish.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really a very good explanation, yeah, of lapskaus. It's a little bit of everything. You just throw in and a combination of a lot of different things.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because I'm from Eastern Øst-Norge, Østlandet, and you are from Vestlandet, the west of Norway. So we have different traditions about how to cook lapskaus. And I talked to some friends up north, in very, very high up north in Norway. And they had the basics are the same, but they tend to add cabbage
Yeah,
as well. So
right.
that's interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah. And
Mhm.
this is so funny because as I have a blog, I specialize in Norwegian vegan food, I guess, for the American public. I got a lot of Norwegian Americans onto my blog, and they all started arguing about what actually goes in lapskaus or what actually goes in this. And think about it. I always say the synonym of the Italian grandma. How many versions of tomato sauce are there, right? And so there's
Yeah,
different versions, not just from north to west to east, but even within families, right?
yeah.
Because you have
Mm.
people who are maybe marrying someone from the north and they're from the south, and then they combine it, and that's what they grew up with, and that's what their children have grown up with. But I think like we're showing today the basics, right? Like there's got to be some root vegetables in there somewhere.
Yeah.
We should mention, what do you serve with Lapskaus. What is the very traditional side, right?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about now. And I don't have it here, unfortunately, but of course it's flatbrød.
All right, so mine is done. I usually test you can use a fork, but I have like a little bread tester and I just like punch it, and if it's like soft, it's done. So mine probably cooked for about 20-25 minutes. And then I'm going to add my sauerkraut. So I'm adding about 2 cups of that. It doesn't have to be exact, whatever you have. Maybe you have leftover sauerkraut. I'm going to add 2 big ladles of that. And now that even thickens it a little more. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. And then, of course, my sliced Beyond Meat sausages. It doesn't have to be Beyond Meat. It can be any vegan sausages you have. And then just add in that. Or you could do, if you have a non-vegan partner who wants regular sausages, you just add, not add in anything to yours and then add sausages to his. And then look at this goodness here. Oh my goodness. I'm going to take a picture. So I'm going to start to plate this guy. And you want it to, plate it pretty hot. Close up here.
Oh, oh, I can smell it.
And of course, you do need the flatbread.
Yeah,
I know.
we missed the flatbread today, but we're gonna talk about flatbread another time.
Next one, for sure, for sure.
Okay, my lapskaus is definitely perfect now.
Great.
So I'm plating it. And also I add this persille on top.
Ooh, so good.
And you have to have some pepper.
Yes.
And
good point. I have my pepper mill here. I totally forgot.
And a little flake sea salt on top.
Freshly cracked black pepper, preferable to the one that's already pre-cracked because it's more flavor aromatic, right? Ooh, look at that. How gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Comfort food can be also very healthy, right? Because this is real comfort food, but it's also another word we use in Norwegian is husmannskost, which I don't know. House I don't even know how to pronounce how to translate that, but it's basically like real basic everyday dishes that are very common. You see in a lot of homes in Norway that everybody can cook. You don't have to be Julia Child, like I said, or Martha Stewart to cook it. It's just a really common dish that everybody makes. So cheers.
Oh. Cheers, Sari.
So good. I love it.
It's very warm, so I gotta wait.
We remember our childhood eating this dish, right, Jonna?
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought about something else, that it wasn't just everyday dish. We could eat it lapskaus on Thursday, or we can eat it as a Sunday dinner, or at the 17th of May, our Norwegian Constitutional Day, or maybe in a wedding. Because everyone just loves lapskaus. So it's
such a good point.
It's including all of those events, the everyday life and the special events in life.
That is a wonderful addition. That is so true, because I've actually been to, and even funerals. I mean, that's like kind of morbid, but I've seen that too. Like people who are gathering after the ceremony and they go together and, grieve together, and they eat lapskaus, and, that's a comfort dish, right? So it is a dish for all occasions.
Yeah.
We hope we've inspired you to make this dish, to see that, plant-based foods can really represent the true flavor of Norway. Just be a little bit more creative with things, and it can bring you back to your childhood, or if you're just starting to learn about Norwegian food, we hope that you found this useful, and we hope you make lapskaus. So please comment when you watch this video. Let us know if you tried to make it. If you have any questions, we're always here for you. Keep following us at Nordic Taste Buds on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and then we'll come back next month. Is going to be off the charts with a really delicious and very special recipe that I know we're both excited about. I just got to start running more to prepare for it.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it's a secret, but it's gonna be very delicious.
Yes. All right. Anything else you want to add, Jana, before we sign off?
Oh, I just want to eat my lapskaus now.
I will. Cheers,
Yeah.
Matt, as we say. Bon appetit in French.
Ja. Vel bekomme, og tusen takk for i dag.
Tusen takk. Ha det bra.
Ha det!